I have a Durac, a 12K inverter, and 3 E-Flexes, all from Fortress Power. This product right here was delivered to me by Nas Solar and Electric, and right now we're going to install it. All of this product right here was delivered to me by a truck with a lift gate. It was pretty easy. Was able to wheel in the pallets and move the product. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with an unboxing to give you like a first look on what these components look like and give you some feedback from my experience of installing several different types of these solar panel battery systems. Start off by unboxing the E-Flex. This is the battery. There are a few different models of this battery, and there are a few new ones coming to the market. I personally lifted this here by myself, but it is a lithium iron phosphate battery, and it does have like a thick metal enclosure that it comes in. So I'd recommend having someone else help you carry this. Okay, so we got the battery itself and then some hardware. All right, so a mounting bracket. Looks like some communication ports. Wow, look at that. Came with some different anchors and different screws. Some good hardware there. And then, of course, caps for the terminals. What a sleek looking battery. That thing is so cool. There's a lot of interesting things about this enclosure. One thing to mention is that it's fully wrapped in just a solid enclosure. There's a lot of reasons for that. This battery is outdoor rated. I have the Durac there that this battery is going to be placed in, but you can just mount this as like a standalone. So looks like we got a button right here for commissioning, caps there for the RS485, an air valve, and then of course the positive and negative terminals on the top there. Next up we have the 12K inverter. This is like an all-in-one inverter where it has like a transfer switch. It has the ports that you need for the solar, the battery, for a lot of other things. It's a cool product. Let's take a look. Oh, this thing's a beast. Look at this thing. Got handles on the side. That's a good thing. Things I noticed when I was pulling this bag apart was there's a pair of keys in here. Let's try this out. The hinges on the side of it lock and unlock. We got okay, so you got your battery, got a bridge for your battery positives, battery negatives there. There's your generator input. That is your backup panel, whatever you're backing up, and that's power coming from the grid if you have it. Neutral bar. I assume that's all ground stuff. Got some PV input terminals. 1 negative, 1 positive, 2 and 3. The last box I'm going to be opening is the Durac. This is an enclosure that's specifically made for the batteries. Let me show you. So looks like we have pre-made connectors for the battery cabling. which is fantastic. Connectors go there. And then you have, you'll just need your cabling that goes, you know, in this situation from the batteries inside this enclosure to the inverter mounted above it. I'm gonna pull this out of the box and I'm gonna start kind of placing these things around. So the first thing, now that I have the batteries, the enclosure, and the inverter unboxed and I've inspected them, I just want to talk about the things that I've noticed, and then we're gonna go over placement and how I feel, some kind of tips about it. These batteries, they're heavy. They're heavy, they're solid, they're high quality. I just like how they're built. You can just wall mount them. With the bracket they come with, you can put them into the enclosure. Extremely versatile setup, and you can do a lot of different combinations with them. There's a lot of cool stuff that goes into like how these are set up with the BMS on the system, with the on and off switch on it, where the terminals are placed, how the enclosure is made, everything like that. Very impressive. Now switching over to the enclosure for these batteries, the Durac. This enclosure is just solid, very like customizable, very flexible. I like everything about it. It's just a slick setup. Opening that up, having all of those pre-made cables in there is just so much easier. You have slots for the batteries themselves in there, feed through the cables, DIN rail for some accessories, some other things. In this situation, we're going to be mounting the inverter kind of side by side. And this is what I'm thinking. There's these knockouts on it right here, 2-inch there, a 2-inch here. What I'm envisioning is if I can mount that inverter up on the wall, and then I can have some kind of gutter, and then go between the gutter and this compartment, so that way I can get the cabling from the battery up into where it plugs in the inverter here. And what I'm thinking with the gutter is it's going to be a place where I can run the conductors for the solar down. I can run the conductors for the load, for the backup panel, and any of the comms into. I'm going to kind of put this up on the wall and see what I think as far as how I transition from the enclosure to the gutter. What I think looks the best, is the most functional, and kind of like my preference. So let's take a look at that. So I have right here that I picked up, this is an 8x8, and it's just a 2-foot section of gutter. I was curious if I could mount this to the wall and that conduit would line up. I wasn't sure whether I was going to have to run like some kind of conduit body, like an LB or something, out of the enclosure and back into the gutter or something, but it looks like the spacing on this was kind of intentional, to where that 2-inch piece right there would be able to come into the side piece on this gutter. But what I'm envisioning is I'll have just a connector, piece of conduit, a connector, mount the gutter there, and then mount the inverter above it. All right, so now taking a look at the 12K inverter. There's this bracket that looks really straightforward, as far as you can kind of mark out where that mounting height was going to be, and it looks like these hinges just perfectly grab on there. You can kind of get your gutter positioned, which is interesting. I think I'm going to start with the gutter and then measure up the distance on there, put the bracket on, and then put that on. And then it's going to be kind of like making all of your marks for the conduit, making your mark from the conduit, pulling the gutter back off. So first on, first off, and then I'm just going to on the ground make all the cuts in the gutter with a punch kit and a hole saw, and then mount that back up and kind of size out all the conduit places, so that way I have everything mounted and then I can put in all the raceways on it. All right, little update for you on mounting the inverter and the gutter below it, kind of how I have it situated here. This thing is pretty heavy. I definitely recommend having 2 guys on it, but I did mount it by myself. That is, but essentially what I'm thinking is I kind of want this gutter to be nice and flush with the inverter, and there's bolts on the bracket where we know 16 on center, so 4 bolts on the bracket up there. You're gonna bolt in the gutter as well, and so kind of the hole, the pre-made hole on the gutter, kind of lines up with the bolt when the bracket's slid all the way this way, and then hang the inverter and then slide the inverter the other way. That kind of worked out nice because I want just enough space. I haven't decided exactly what I'm gonna do, but basically run 2-inch into this side of the gutter. Along with that, I wanted the 2-inch gutter. I wanted it to overhang since it does, because it'll be easier to have any conduit runs that need to come down. Let's say you're doing a attic run from solar, you can run some conduit straight down and then hit the gutter. So you have battery coming in and you have solar coming in, and then everything else those go into the inverter, and then out goes your grid. They have this little template here. It's kind of helpful for spacing out your conduits. Looking at this here, if we take a look, I'm doing off grid with this. So I'm gonna leave this grid, the grid input, because that won't be utilized. I'm gonna leave that blank on the gutter. I'm gonna do load because we have a backup panel. I'm going to do the battery input. And I wonder if I could get away with just doing 1 battery input. I think the best way to do this, honestly, from my opinion, is to just select what runs you're going to do and then take all those conduits up. And I'm going to just lift the gutter up to the bottom, and then from the inside, just kind of trace those holes so I have an idea of where everything's going. And since I have this really lined up flush, I can just keep that side flush with the inverter, kind of trace out my holes so I know my conduit is running just straight down for the position of the inverter. So I'm gonna go ahead and make those marks and start cutting them. A little update on this, I did actually go and get an offset connector, and I felt like this made the most sense, specifically too because of the trim piece behind, like the baseboard behind the batteries, making it sit out just a little bit rather than cutting the trim on the wall and pushing it flush. This like buys me a little bit of room because I can angle it like that and have it come in where I'm a little bit more comfortable getting like a lock washer and everything fed onto it from this side. I'm still leveling and everything, but got this box mounted. I did 3 2-inch conduits and 2 3/4 inch. I did notice, which I didn't notice at first, that this is actually a 1-inch, so I'm gonna put a reducer on it. But these are 3/4 and those 2 are 1-inch. So I wanted all the conduit just kind of in a line, lined up in the back, and I wanted to use 3/4 for the PV. That's all I need for what I'm running. So a little tip there. A lot of these conduits are like different sizes, so you can pay attention to that. So I like getting all my boxes hung, and I guess the last thing that I needed to do was to hang a panel. So I have this one from Square D. This is a surface mount or a flush mount panel, and I like that it had a main breaker on it. And you could, change that breaker for whatever you needed, however you're designing the system. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this mounted up, so that way I have all of my boxes mounted before I start running my raceways. I got the panel mounted, and I'm going with just this sweep, 2-inch sweep, to put the feeders in the panel from the gutter there. So just finished wiring up the 12K inverter as well as the gutter and the battery cabinet. Just want to show you kind of the wires and how I have things situated. So the battery cables go from the bus right there for each of the batteries off of those connectors, and they run up and over. I have it through this 2-inch offset connector, and I have the communications wire running through here as well. So just the positive and negative from the battery that lands on the battery positive and negative, and then that communications wire that runs to the battery communication port on that board there. Now, solar comes down through this conduit, and I have the wires running through, and then here. And you basically have, for this, just one array, PV input 1 positive, PV input 1 negative, and then your ground. Now, this system does not have any grid power or a generator, so those terminals are all blank. The backup panel, I have 2-aught copper for the line 1, line 2, and neutral running through the gutter, as well as a ground wire that grounds all of the bushings that run through this conduit and then comes up here and feeds this panel. Didn't end up needing to use this other conduit. This 2-inch conduit, you could fit quite a few conductors in it. You can see those battery cables fit through there pretty easily. And then as well as the 2-aught and the ground wire, you could almost double up those conductors through that conduit with the fill factor. So that's our setup right there. I'm going to go ahead and close up this box and kind of go through the commissioning process after this. So after installing this and using it, I wanted to go over the commissioning process, go over the spec sheets for each of the units, and also go over the cost and additional thoughts I have about this product specifically in comparison to all the other battery systems that I've had the chance to install. So for the commissioning process, it was extremely simple. You basically just take a USB drive with the latest update for the inverter, plug it into the USB port inside the enclosure, and then press the buttons on the batteries and turn the system on. And then you can go through the settings on the screen and make some custom configurations based on what you're doing with your system. And your system's up and running. You have the latest firmware on the inverter, and as soon as those batteries supply power and turn on the inverter, like, you're all set. Like that was extremely simple and easy to do in comparison to some of the other battery systems that I've commissioned before. For your specific system, you may want to do a little bit of research and go through the training in order to make sure that your settings are correct for what you're using this and how you have it configured for your specific site. But my overall review of it was just simple. So I have the spec sheets for the Durarack, the enclosure, the E-Flex, the batteries, and then the 12K, the NV12K inverter. And I wanted to just go over each of those units, what they cost, and my thoughts are on each of them. So just looking at this, whole home solar storage inverter, the Fortress Power NV True 12K inverter, I'm really impressed with the ease of installation and the performance as well as the price tag. If you go over to Nas Solar and Electric, where I was purchasing this product from, and you can buy it as well, this inverter comes in just over $5,000. When you look at the specific performance of this inverter for $5,000, it's a crazy deal. And what you're getting with it is the 200 amp pass through for that transfer switch. So if you're doing grid tied, you can install this as like a redirect on a 200 amp service and do whole home backup. And that's a really good value. Now, the other thing you don't want to overlook is that it has 3 MPPTs with a max of 21 kilowatts of PV. So it's an all-in-one unit. It has the 200 amp transfer switch, and it also has, it's capable of having up to 21 kilowatts of solar. So it's a massive inverter, and especially when you're comparing it to that price tag, that's really impressive. It comes built in with the DC switch. It also has built in the RSD. So there are rapid shutdown devices that you can install underneath the solar panels, and it has a built-in button that will initiate rapid shutdown on those panels, built in from the factory, which was really impressive. So that's an out-of-the-box solution for AP Smart. And so if you're in an area where rapid shutdown is required, or you have a project where it is, that's already built in for you. It's also compatible with Tigo. So you got AP Smart or Tigo, 2 different options for those RSDs. Okay, so now switching over to look at the eFlex Max, which I have 3 of those batteries inside of this Durarak enclosure. This enclosure could host 1 to 4 batteries inside of it. It's a 5.4 kilowatt hour battery. So when you have 4 of them in this enclosure, you have over 20 kilowatt hours of storage. And so it's really easy to scale them, whether you just need 10 kilowatt hours or 15 or 20 or 40 or whatever combination. You can put those batteries together in a parallel connection and create that amount of storage, very flexible for your design. I do like that it has a built-in BMS on the battery. It has the compatible communications that's built for this inverter. It has a button on it for turning it on and off, simple commissioning. It just checks all the box for being compact, affordable, scalable, quality, and everything. The last thing I want to talk about is this Durarak enclosure. It cost $1,400, which was impressive to me. It comes with a DIN rail for mounting accessories. It has the wires inside of it that are pre-made for connecting the batteries. It has a bus inside of it. It has a nice latch. It's solid. You can even add another enclosure on top of it for the inverter itself, or add several battery cabinets together. And for the price tag, I think it's worth it when you're doing one of these projects. So like as shown, this setup right here, having 15 kilowatt hours of storage on the 12K inverter and this Durarak, it's realistic to be able to purchase this for around $15,000. Now with shipping and taxes and everything and current prices may fluctuate a little bit, but from the competitor's cost to install and what they offer, $15,000 is a good price, where I see the value, where it's extremely competitive, but then it has all of the features and it's extremely simple and easy to use in comparison. I wanted to wrap up this video with a thank you to Fortress Power for supporting this video, and also Nas Solar and Electric. for providing the distribution of this product. I am strongly recommending this for your off-grid or grid-tied solution, for any battery or solar that you're doing. The one other thing that I haven't really touched on in this video that I have to mention is the resources that NOS Solar and Electric has and Fortress Power have, through their technical support, where they answer the phone, they provide answers, they provide resources, and their online pages, where with Fortress Power you can sign up, do the installation trainings, and they have tons of resources for example installations and answers to common questions and a lot of different things that makes installing a system like this so much easier. You're not like, I didn't feel like I was in the dark doing this installation. I felt like any question that I could have about my specific setup, I could go to the resources from either of those companies and get my questions answered. Fortress Power is a great company that has great people that work for them that really know what they're doing, and same with NOS Solar and Electric. They have some of the most experienced technicians with their tech support team that have done a ton of off-grid projects and can quickly help you go through your project and help you out with anything that you have trouble with. And that's like one of the biggest selling points for me, is like when you do a project, like things come up and you don't have the confidence to make a decision and you don't want to make a costly mistake. That's there in order to make your project go smoothly, because they really want to see their products be successful in the field and have their customers have a happy experience with them. So thank you to NOS Solar and Electric and Fortress Power. I will be posting some more videos in the future, doing some more testing and whatnot with these products and showing some more of their features. But that concludes the kind of installation and overview and review segment of this portion of the YouTube video. So thank you.